everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Yeah, We Read It. My name is Ellie Petro, and I'm going to be one of your hosts today.
My name is Meggie Gates, and I'm going to be your other host today.
And yes, everybody, we are best friends reading young adult novels from our past, and joining us today is a very special guest host. Please introduce yourself, guest host.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ellie Petro.
Yay!
Yay!
That's right, everybody. As Meggie and I, we have been on this journey reading Scott Westerfeld's Uglies trilogy.
Yes.
But this trilogy is a little different because there is a fourth book in the trilogy called Extras that is an official, unofficial fourth book. So like an official fourth book, but a completely different story that takes place after Tally Youngblood has, taken down the government, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of lumped in there, sort of like when you have an unplanned pregnancy and you like that kid, but this one is a kid that we don't really love.
You know when you have the surprise fourth child?
That's this.
That's this.
And sometimes they turn out quirky, but most times
it would just be better if they didn't turn out. So.
That's this.
The big conclusion we've learned is that the trilogy would be better without this book.
It would be more of a trilogy. I'll say that.
It would be more of a trilogy. And now, Ellie, I know you read this series when you were but a teen.
But a teen in
Did
angst.
you read Extras when you were reading the original three books?
I believe I did, because there were some things in it that came back to me, and I was like, oh,
okay.
yeah, I remember that. But let me double check the year on this, because
It's 2007.
Is
then
it
I
your
absolutely
original
read it.
book? Nice. You reread the entire series too.
Yeah.
I really
Yes,
prepped for this. So
You really came to play, which we freaking love.
Yeah.
I did not want to be the weak link here.
No, and we are obsessed with that. I didn't read Extras when I read the original trilogy because I remember thinking, like, this wrapped up pretty well. I don't need to read this. This book that's about Aya Fuse. I remember at the bookstore picking it up a few times and reading the back, just being like, I just don't understand why I would need to read this.
Yeah.
And years later, probably 10 years later, I've learned that I didn't actually need to read it.
We can learn a lot from our past selves.
Surprisingly, it got really good reviews, and I don't know if
Really?
that's because Scott Westerfeld just paid for SEO to bump them. But when I was Googling it got good reviews.
How did this book get good reviews? Oh my god, dear listeners, because we're about to get into it. Let's start just very bare bones. This conversation can go anywhere as far as we're both concerned.
Yeah.
So we start out, we're introduced to Aya Fuse, who is but a 15-year-old ugly, but she's an extra because she's not popular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she also behaves like she is extra. She is the most whiny, obsessive, a high-maintenance person.
She is so entitled, but she should have no entitlement because she's so ugly.
Yeah. And I think we need to put a little bit of emphasis on, there's completely new world building here for Aya.
Oh,
Aya.
yes.
I'd never said it right in my head. I just glazed over it each time. So
That's totally
she's a
fine.
blur in my head. It's just a couple of letters.
She also has a hover cam, which is similar to the hover cam we saw in the armory scene in Specials, the three that were following the middle pretty that happened to be in the destruction of the armory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She has one as almost like a pet.
It reminds me of Flubber. I don't know why my brain is like Robin Williams and Flubber are a lot like
so funny.
Aya and Moggle.
I kept picturing like a Disney princess sidekick.
Okay, yeah.
But that it just is a camera. And I was just like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So, timeline though, this is taking place when Tally is about 20 years old, and I think at the end of the book, I would say she's at least 17. So it's only been 3 years once Specials has ended.
Oh, I thought the party at the end of the book took place immediately after.
No, the extras. I'm saying this
Oh,
one.
yeah.
They said that this was 3 years since the mind reign of Tally, so she's 19 now.
She's the most famous person in the world. Let's just put it out there.
And she doesn't care, which is hot.
Oh my god! And
It's a little
we
hot.
have to get to Tally later because boy, do we need to talk about this freaking world that exists in Extras because it's different. It's a lot different.
It is because no one has the the lesions. That's what they're called. The
Yeah. But
lesions in their brains
yeah.
anymore. But some people elected to keep them.
Some people elected to keep the lesions.
Yeah.
Which is something we talked about, I think, when we were reading Pretties, is would we want to have the lesions or not? And we agreed we'd want to have the option to have the lesions sometimes.
Yeah, and can I take
Which
them
is
out?
fair.
Yeah, like, I already have a mood disorder. Could I get them in there and on days when I want to be happy, just
Yeah.
decide I'm going to be manic?
And probably get rid of the mood disorder.
There we go.
Yeah, and then we're introduced to also like a lot of like new cliques, and everybody's big thing is like they have to kick stories online to get popular. So that was the most creepy part of this book because it felt very like TikTok, Instagram world.
Yeah.
But none of that existed in 2007 when this book came out.
Yeah.
And it felt very, very relevant now because it felt very like algorithm based, and I was just like, how did anybody predict this?
Yeah.
There's one woman in there, and her name is Nana Love, and she'll have like the 1,000 Faces party, which we'll get to way later on. But she essentially was like Addison Rae in my mind, just like influencer. And then I feel like that culture is different from the one that like Aya and her brother Hyro were in.
Yeah.
Because I read Kickers as like journalists.
Yeah.
Because they actually had like very in-depth, engaging stories.
Yeah, they
that
do
were
some research.
researched.
Yeah.
They have to have some facts there. And Nana Love was like, I got a new hat. And like people would vote
honestly,
on it.
And true to today, they do mention that nobody cares about the interesting stories.
Yes.
They only care about what Nana Love is wearing to her party.
Yes.
And I was like, that is the internet to a T.
I think it's also
Exactly.
important to point out that fame is now currency. After the mind reign,
Yes.
after the mind reign, they had to find a new way to consolidate resources and put some sort of hierarchy in to control the now uncontrollable pretty people.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
and
the
they
uglies.
they kind of explain the economy on page 31 in my book, where, okay, so they talk about the mind ring changed it all, like Ellie just said. Back in the pretty time, bubbleheads could ask for anything they wanted, but of course, when there's too many resources going into random hobbies, no one was volunteering for hard jobs. So some people wanted to go back to money, complete with rent and taxes, and starving if you couldn't pay for food. But the city council didn't go that crazy. They voted for the reputation economy instead. So merits and face ranks decided who got the best mansions, the most carbon emissions, the biggest wall allowances. So merits, you know, like we said, were face ranks.
Yeah,
Who's
they're
the
face
most
ranks.
popular?
Also, on page 31, they talk about... they do give a little bit about like what happened after the mind reign, and a good thing they talked about is how Hero, her brother, had like a really hard time because he had the lesions at one point,
Yeah.
and had to like kind of figure out what to do with his life. And they were talking a lot about how these pretties suddenly had to like realize things, and everybody had to relearn how to like live life because everything had changed so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it said he was jumping from click to click. And there's a lot of clicks.
So many clicks.
There's a lot. I
There's
think
almost too many.
maybe I think the term mind drain is kind of misleading because it was pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to me, those two don't really give way to the other.
Yeah.
And so that threw me off, and I was. It's at one point I put the context clues together, and I was like, okay, I guess this is what they mean is when after Tally and the pills spread, like that's what all these context clues are pointing to.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't well referenced.
It wasn't well explained. Honestly, they should have called it like the mind cure that happened
Yes.
or something. Like,
Yeah.
they needed a better name for it because it definitely didn't make sense. They very casually kept mentioning mind rain, but didn't fully explain that the mind rain is when the pills scattered everywhere.
Oh my god, they also kicked up the slang in this book like 4,000%.
It's like reading Cockney. Like, what is this?
It's like reading Cockney.
It felt like
That's
reading
so
Clockwork
funny.
Orange. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, just a lot of things happen in this book, both slang-wise, a lot of characters come and go, a lot of just weird plot changes. This book felt very chaotic in, like, the worst way possible.
Yes.
And frantic almost.
Yeah, because I remember in, like, the first, like, 80 pages, I was like, okay, like, we're vibing a little bit, we're gonna get there, the plot is starting, and then by page 150, the plot had changed, like, 3 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Once she had kicked the, like, big story about... There
We'll
were,
get
like,
there.
3 plots going on, but... I really enjoyed it for the first, like, 200 pages up until the, like, other subplot.
Oh, and once the big middle book plot shift, it just goes so downhill. It's honestly hilarious. Like, the amount of times I screamed at this book, just what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But then I was also like, this is also, like, hilarious because this is just so stupid at this point.
Bad. Yeah. So should we go back and try to illustrate the book?
Yeah, let's start with the first plot. Like, we all thought the book was going this way. We know Aya Fuse is trying to get famous, but she goes to a party to stalk this girl, Eden, because she saw these girls riding a train last night, and she's obsessed with them now. That is the main plot we are introduced to.
And it's kind of cool. You're like, okay, we've got a girl gang. Cool.
We're like train surfers. I felt very Rip Girls, that Disney Channel original movie.
It felt like an old, like, 90s band that I'd want to be a part of.
Yeah, like, everyone's wearing a flannel.
Yeah, very Spice Girls.
Doc Martens, maybe?
Sly Girls, Spice Girls. They're called the Sly Girls, is what we learn. Also, at this party that Aya is at to stalk Eden, we're introduced to Frizz.
Oh, God.
Frizz is someone who has formed his own clique. Yes. And he, I think, is pretty proud of it, but he's pretty open about it. At first, he's proud of it. He goes through that growth. He has that character journey.
Yeah. I kind of imagined him as, like, one of those free avatars you can pick as your Nintendo profile. And you're like, oh, see, God, fine, I'll pick the wizard. I'll pick the one that looks like a wizard.
I kept imagining the way he talked and acted just reminded me of Eli from Degrassi.
Whatever it takes, Laura.
For most of the book, and because I just pictured him with, like, the long Eli hair and like a leather jacket that's cuffed up, and he's wearing skinny jeans, and he's like kind of goth, kind of not.
Yeah, probably has like black nail polish on, like chipped a little bit.
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
I viewed him with like huge curls,
really,
like a big afro, sort of.
Like River from the Circle.
Like River from the Circle. Yes.
Interesting. I did not see that. I pictured him as a little emo boy.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Can we talk really fast about how cool Eden Maru is?
Oh yeah, she's like
she's a hoverball player, and she's more importantly one of the people who rides on the trains. But like, she's well known, athletic, built.
She does not give a fuck.
Okay. And speaking of Eden, I do have to ask this question because I remember reading this book and being like, I need to ask everybody, what does the hoverball rig look like to you? Because we know Eden can kind of glide around because she has a hoverball rig. And to me, all I pictured her was just standing on a bowling ball that would just levitate around.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
That's all I could picture.
I get the ball part. I kind of viewed it as like a cylinder, but like a flat cylinder. And then when they said they had rigs, I assumed that it was like their arms were just like tied to it. So their arms were tied to the side. So they're just like flying in midair but can't move their arms.
See, I think you're both very wrong about this.
What did you picture?
So they described the rigs used for playing hoverball. So these are not actually rigs with balls included. So I'm picturing it very Iron Man. So she's got some levitation, like crash bracelets on her wrists and her ankles, and she's just kind of soaring around. She can propel herself as she needs to. And she has like the belly sensor on as well.
I think I viewed that too. I viewed her with her arms or her hands like Iron Man.
Yeah.
See, when she was walking around.
Except they were just tied down.
Just tied down.
Yeah.
See, I don't know how I got this, but I could not get hover ball out of my head, so I just pictured her like standing on a bowling ball that
like a seal in a circus, or like
and she like got to glide around on this bowling ball, and I was like, but how is she on a hoverboard and a bowling ball at the same time?
I don't think she is.
No, I'm wrong, but that is just how I could not get it out of my head.
The rigs make sense the way that you described it, Ellie. I did view it as Iron Man, though, like same stance.
Exactly, like she can control it.
I get that.
The viewers can't see this, but I'm waving my arms around.
I know. I had to.
Do you guys viewers picture Iron Man and how he moves? But picture that without the armored suit.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyway, Eden Maru is like a cool character that we're introduced to.
Oh yeah.
We're like, of course Aya looks up to her. This girl's freaking cool. She's like kind of famous, really mysterious.
She's like tall and blonde because I just projected myself onto the cool girl. and mysterious. And Moggle.
I pictured Eden with like purple hair.
And to get into this little tech bash at Prettyville, I asked to go undercover because she's 15 and she's an ugly. And I do love the disguise and the clique that she kind of blends into because she's wearing this cloak and there's these people called the Bombers. And imagining this made me laugh out loud. They're like people who try to bomb the face rank system by just chanting one person's name to like raise their ranks.
Like thousands of times in one night.
Which is like the equivalent of somebody buying likes and subscribers now.
Yeah.
That's a little freaky.
Yeah. It's freaky.
Can you imagine going to a party and there's like 4 people standing in a circle and they're just chanting one person?
Like wearing robes too.
Maggie. Yeah, it's weird. It's so weird.
It's a little clanny.
And honestly, I'll say I thought the Bombers were going to be like a bigger plot line because it seemed like Aya did this a lot and they were described very vividly.
You've heard of the Volturi wearing cloaks. Now get ready for the Bombers who are just in the corner chanting.
So yeah, she's at this party. She sees Eden leave. She goes to follow Eden. Winds up in a cool sewer system.
It's very cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
a.
Wait, okay, can you guys explain, so you guys thought that Frizz, was his name Frizz or Frizzo?
His name is Frizz.
I started calling him Frizzo at some
point.
Fizz.
You're right. It's Frizz. You're right.
I was reading this morning. So
Were you guys picturing him wearing a leather jacket? Because I thought this guy literally looked like a wizard. I thought he had big curly hair and like a long purple jacket.
No, he's wearing a suit in my head. Or like,
yeah.
When you guys said leather coat, I was like, oh, we are on way too different.
I don't know how. A 15-year-old wizard wearing a cloak.
I'm not kidding. I viewed him as levitating in this long purple velvet jacket.
That's so funny. No, I pictured him as just kind of like a moody teen boy who started his own clique.
Yeah.
Because a very like emo boy would start a clique where it's like, you can't lie because that's what beauty is.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned we've just mentioned that he started his own clique. We haven't gotten into the.
We'll get into it more later. But anyway, we're in the sewer.
Moggle's with us. Moggle,
Moogle, whatever the freak his name is.
Meggie.
Aya's riding high because she ran to Frizz. Face reputation 4,612, and for some reason he likes her despite her big nose.
And she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad I didn't tell him my last name because I don't want him to find me." Yeah. But she goes in the sewer.
Very Cinderella.
He thinks her nose is fake. That's how bad her nose is. He's like, cool nose.
He's like, wow, he asks her like what surgery she had to do it that way.
She's like,
because it's so different.
It's custom, or what did she say? She said something about like a special surge.
I forget.
But she goes down into the sewer after this. She's like feeling real good about herself. Just had the best interaction.
Really? I read that as she's feeling so self-conscious.
I mean, he talked to her though.
Yeah, I thought she hated it though. That's how I read it at least.
If a wizard talks to you at a party,
Maggie, I'm gonna be honest. You are outvoted. He is not a
wizard.
I
don't like the spin. I don't want to lose it. I mean,
okay, we'll run with it. He's part wizard, but also emo
he's
boy.
Also Eli from Degrassi.
Exactly.
Yeah, but also Eli from Degrassi. She's this is also when we learned that like the cities have been expanding since the migraine. That's a very important thing you need to know.
Yeah.
So she's flying down in this sewer, just immediately gets assaulted from just all angles.
Yep.
It's
just flying at her. Like, and it's dark, so she's like,
and she's like, "Hey, stop! What's going on?"
Yeah,
wait, I'm a child. I'm in the sewer.
Eden's like, "Don't worry, she's coming." And then Aya's like, "Who?" Like looking back over her shoulder, like, "Me?" Moment. And yeah, bitch. God. Who else do you think is down in the sewer?
Y'all, I cannot iterate enough, listeners and present company included, how dumb Aya is.
Oh my god, she's so bad.
She's so dumb. But the girls really quickly, they like surround her, they steal her camera, they're like, what the fuck do you want? You're
Valid
not allowed to follow us
question.
here.
Valid question.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I don't know, I saw Eden, and I saw you guys riding the tree, and I think it was really cool. And they're like, we thought we were really cool.
Yeah.
They mock her a lot.
It's kind of rude. I mean...
Oh, they're not nice, but they are pretty sly.
They are pretty cool. And they're like, so are you in or are you out on being a sly girl? And she's like, please don't hurt me, I'm in. And they're like, okay, fine, but we get to throw your hover cam into this storm sewer lake pile.
And
Yeah.
she goes, okay.
She does just give right in. She does not...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not like they're like gun to her head gonna kill her.
Yeah, they're just
like,
getting rid of her hover cam.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of intimidating though. They are very scary.
Yeah, and I was like, honestly, this is really cool. They're very intimidating.
Yeah. But also, if she wants
this-
to be treated like a professional, she needs to act like a professional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where's your boundaries?
I know, and then, fast forward, she hangs out with Hiro and his friend Ren, which we need to talk about Ren for a second, because why was Ren in the book at all?
Because he made Moggle, and I think she wanted to S as D.
Okay, but...
I did too. I got like the little sister wants
Yep.
to fuck the brother's best
I
friend
thought
vibes.
that for a minute too, and then we got more into this Frizz development, and I was like, I thought she was going to fuck Ren this whole
No,
time.
he's gonna get into theater in high school, and then he's gonna come out later. It's Ren Endgame.
Yep.
Oh yeah, but it is very fun when she goes to her brother Hyro's house, because this is when they realize that Frizz is popular, and he's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, but she basically goes there because she's like, Ren, they threw my hover cam in the water. Can
And
you
then-
come get it for me?
Ren's like, whoa, bow down to your brother Hyro Sensei. He just broke the top 1,000 face rank.
God.
Which is why, so do you get the Sensei after your name when you are the 1,000?
I think when you're in the thousands, you get sensei.
Yeah.
When you get
but-
Sama.
Like, we also don't get clues into that this is, like, a Japan-based culture. We don't get that
Yes.
confirmation until, like, halfway through the book.
When
guys-
did you figure it out? Because Laura
When they
and I were
said
texting.
they're not speaking Japanese. That's when
Yeah.
I figured it out.
Me too. And then once you get there was when I was like, oh, this book is
Yeah.
problematic.
Listeners, we have to mention that the biggest twist in this book is that halfway through the book, they suddenly go, Aya was hoping her English would sound okay.
Yeah.
And then they would whisper in Japanese to each other. And that's when we learned that we've been in Japan the whole time.
Because,
Like
and
Tokyo.
this is why I couldn't figure it out. I was like, okay, there's a lot of slang I don't really get, but there was slang in the Uglies, and they'd always go Taliwa, Shayla. So I thought them being like Hyro Sensei. I was like, oh, is this just a new thing?
Yeah.
I was already like, this is a little appropriative because this is very much trying to be very
they, like, bow,
manga
too.
inspired. Yeah.
So I appropriated culture when I was younger, and I did karate as a white girl. It was very bad, and we had to call the instructor sensei. And I was like, this just feels wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
A lot of levels, and that's how I knew.
Yeah.
It was just my background.
Just call Mr. Teacher instead.
I have a 25-year-old friend learning Taekwondo, but he's the only 25-year-old in his class, so it's just him and a ton of children.
That's so funny.
I just wanted to bring that up because I like the image of it. I think
God,
that's
that's
very funny.
hilarious. But we also learned that Hyro is like famous for. He recently published a story that there was a conspiracy that doctors are killing Crumblies because of the overpopulation. And I thought that was going to be like a bigger plot too, and it was not. It was mentioned maybe twice in this book casually.
Wait, I thought that doctors were trying to figure out how people could live forever.
No, some people were trying to live forever, and that was the thing. That's why they started killing people.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, because they could live forever.
Oh,
so
no.
big conspiracy. And again, I was like, maybe like we're gonna start uncovering more of this, and we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, overpopulation was the theme of this book, but they did not really weave it
It's
in well at all.
basically a Green New Deal book. I'll say it. But there was also the oh shit, I forgot it. I just had it and I didn't write it down because I was going to say it. Ignore me. Let's keep going.
That's okay. It'll come back.
Okay.
Then she gets her ping while she's at the brother's house, and they're like, "We ride at midnight."
Oh, I did love that after they threw Moggle into this sewer lake, she was like, okay, I come with you now, and they're like, we'll let you know. And
Yeah.
then they just left
We'll
her
call
in
you.
the sewer.
Like
Yeah.
in the dark.
Yeah.
We'll call you.
And
It's like when you have a job interview and you're like, oh, I am covered in sweat and I don't feel great.
great.
After
We'll let
that.
you know.
Yes.
So she gets her ping, then she goes to meet the Sly Girls, and And
she doesn't have a camera. And this is the hugest thing in the world to her. This is a catastrophe. She does not have a camera.
That she wants to do a story on them. But the Sly Girls' thing is they don't want fame at any cost.
Oh, yeah, and Aya does not respect boundaries at any cost.
She does not.
And Aya goes on her mission is to now expose them for throwing Moggle in the murky waters of the sewer.
After knowing that they don't want it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. This is the epitome of unstoppable object beats an immovable force. Because they're gonna clash.
I mean,
it's fine.
Absolutely. But honestly, Sly Girl should have seen right through Aya. She's a little priss. Like, why did they set themselves up?
I agree. But the next night, she meets up with them, and they're all using this, like, technical lingo. Like, oh, we'll be writing 300 clicks and, like, jumping off a bridge onto a train. I honestly spaced out a lot.
Okay, but I will say, like, honestly, picturing, like, people surfing, like, a high-speed train, it seemed pretty cool when it was written, like, as it was written.
Cool track.
I was like, this is a cool stunt. Like,
for sure.
if this was a movie, this would be pretty cool.
I visualized it as that scene in Wanted. Has anyone seen that with Angelina Jolie?
Oh, yeah.
She, like, rides on top of a train, and it's very cool. That's basically it. She just rides on top of a train.
Nice.
Okay.
And then the train goes into, like, the snowy mountains, which, again, very pretty to visualize. They have, like, a code system, so they know when to, like, duck and when to lay flat down when there's, like, obstacles in the way.
I thought that was cool.
But
she did not do it well.
No, she didn't. I think they had red, which meant flat, going on, and she was just like, wow, I'm so alive right now.
She's like, I can feel
now.
this changing me. And she
Changed.
doesn't change at all this entire book.
She doesn't.
No.
So, yeah, but then the train stops.
Yeah.
In
Which
a
we're like,
mountain.
We're like, uh-oh, plot point, they're in a cave.
The tunnel.
And, yeah, they get into the tunnel, and they notice the tunnel wall is opening.
And they're like, her and this girl Mickey, who again I thought was going to be a way bigger character than she was. Mickey and her are like the two people who can see it, and they see these figures moving these like big old cylinders around in like this orange glowing light, and we're like, okay, a little strange.
What's going on here? Like a lot of levitation, and we know there's a lot of levitation in this universe, anyways.
Yeah,
from
Yep,
the hover
Iron Man.
rigs.
yeah.
But
then they start to like see like these people aren't like normal people. They're like very tall. Their limbs are very long.
feet
Yeah.
are
They're very
bent.
gray and spindly.
They have hairless, pale skin, and their eyes are way too wide apart.
Yeah, and so we're like, okay, a little freaky.
A little freaky.
You know what? I was explaining the plot to this book in an Uber with my friend Elena, and I don't know if the Uber driver heard me, because after I'm explaining this plot, he goes, so are you into aliens? And I only realized just now that it's because I was talking about this. And I was like, oh yeah, there's that whole thing. President Eisenhower signed a treaty to end the Cold War with aliens.
It's true.
And then he
It's a
loved
fact.
me. But,
Wild.
fun Uber.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really get that they were aliens until I think Maggie texted me just being like, oh, the alien subplot is weird. And I'm like, that's a good word to describe these figures.
Yeah.
They're aliens.
When they
like-
said pale, I viewed them as the gray, like, black-eyed aliens, you know?
Yeah, so, but then we kind of cut, like, the train moves back up. Then she's with Ren back in the sewer, trying to get Moggle back. And I love this, that Ren's just kind of like, well, I can't find him. Good luck. And then he just turns on his, like, eye screen and just, like, lets her search.
Yeah, and doesn't he let her go into the dark water? Like, literally, she's still a child. I think that's an important thing to remember.
She's 15 years old.
He just is like, okay, well, here's this heavy thing. Go hold on to it, and it'll take you to sink down. It has a magnet at the bottom. And
Yeah.
like, that's how you'll get out.
He's-
Like,
He's like, there's a magnet, and then there's a balloon with helium. Good luck.
Yeah, it's a weird, like, unnecessary sequence of events. But she gets Moggle back.
How can someone overcome knowing that, oh, I'm going to go into a lake that is all just storm runoff, leaves, and, oh, God, imagine the smell.
well, she
It'd be
becomes
so
the Mud
gross.
Queen after that.
Slime Queen.
Slime Queen. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome. Yeah, don't
That's an
get it
important
twisted. But yeah, she basically, like, gets Moggle back and then, like, sludges home in all of her goopy sewer goodness. And that's
Slimy.
when Frizz shows up out of nowhere and he's like, hey, oh my god, I'm so glad I ran to you outside of your dorm. Is
Oh,
this
you live
weird?
here? Oh, weird.
He asks her if she feels stalked.
The answer to
I
that
have
is
to say,
always
this
yes. Ladies,
this
if
is my
there are
favorite
any
part
young
of the
women
book.
listening, if a man ever asks you, do you feel stalked? The answer is yes, please stay away from me.
Because he literally does this, she goes like, how did you find me? He goes, well, you said your first name was Aya, so I just like looked for all the Ayas at the party, and you were dressed as a bomber, so I looked for, an Aya that was chanting the same name over and over and over again in like the feeds, and then I found you,
much work.
and I found out you live here. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and there were like 1,200 other Ayas in the system, and he somehow found her.
Yeah.
I have to say, though, this is my favorite part of the book, because not only is he there to stalk her, he just, like, will backhand compliment her, and they are so funny.
And I was like, oh my god, I can't believe he's paying attention to me like this. And I'm like, girl, run. Like, literally fucking run.
Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, what'd you notice about me? And he's like, when I first saw you, I thought you were intense. And then I thought, wow, it's so brave of her to wear that nose. When he said it's so brave of her to wear that nose, I screamed.
Yeah, and then he called her obvious at one point.
He did.
Which was so funny.
Yeah, just like a note into the universe. I hope no one ever calls me brave for posting a picture. Like, I think that's the worst that you could say to somebody. Like, oh, you're so brave for posting this. Like, oh.
Because I feel like brave has
Thank you.
now comes across as very like it has like it's lost its meaning.
Yeah,
because like I feel like people start to use brave for things like you wrote something that was personal to you, so it's like brave would also be like that's not really brave, because like brave would be like if I saved a bunch of children from a burning building having no knowledge of how fire works.
exactly. Yeah. It's just like me posting on Facebook I want to die is not me fighting in the Vietnam War.
Like, and I feel like people should start using like people should start saying like thank you for being like so open and vulnerable, instead of saying thank you for you're so brave.
You're so brave.
Because that's what they actually mean by it. But it's like,
cash at me $10. That works too.
That's brave of
give
you.
me money or appreciate my openness.
Wow, it's really brave of you to have that nose. And she was just like, thank you. Wow.
God.
Thanks.
Oh my god. And she's also, meanwhile they're having this conversation, she's just still covered in all like the slime and goop from the sewer.
Oh yeah, and they're also having like a heart-to-heart, and this is where he opens up about radical honesty, the lesion that he got in his brain, because he just can't help himself. He lies so much. Isn't he also like, you don't get it, I lied to girls. I lied to a lot of girls.
Yeah, it was very, you don't understand me.
Yeah, it was very Jughead,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, because then afterwards when she was blabbing because radical honesty was rubbing off on her, she was like, I'm sorry, I'm probably just being so mysterious and radically stupid. And he was like, not mysterious, more like obvious. And then he's like, I have to go. It's like, this bitch
traipses away. I literally, and this was the point of the book that I wrote in my notes, that basically Scott Westerfeld watched Spirited Away once and went, I've got a story.
I also read it because they were like sitting outside and she has the slime on and they were like watching a soccer tournament, and for some reason, was he like levitating? Like he wouldn't even sit on the ground.
I thought they were in a tree.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, I thought they were just standing outside the dorm.
I thought they were sitting on a tree branch.
I thought she was sitting on the ground and
we
she
all
was
had
levitating.
That's because... Are you implying that she walked home from the sewer, sat down on the ground, and then Frizz approached her?
I imagine him like, let us speak in this grove, and she was like, okay.
You really ran with the wizard archetype.
He was like, no, I have on this purple long cloak. I will levitate while you sit on the ground.
That's so funny.
My little muck
You
goblin.
really ran with that. Wow, I just saw like little dweeby teen that's very moody and loves poetry.
Like,
No,
probably
he
listens
was
to My
straight up a
Chemical
wizard.
Romance. Like, that's what I got.
Or Very Panic at the Disco, My Chem,
Yeah.
MCR.
You know.
He can do that as a wizard.
Or was that AFI, the one with they had like 2 songs that made it to like MTV, and I thought it was really cool.
I don't remember.
Before
Proud
your
of
day.
them.
That was like Uglies era.
But now we're back in Train Town with the Sly Girls.
Oh yeah.
The next night,
After she showers, she's like, "Ooh, it's train time."
Oh, and she
train
has Margot
time.
back at this point. Right?
she has Moggle back, and she's gonna camouflage paint him.
Wait, she basically does it that night, right?
Yeah.
She goes out because she misses class the next day.
Yeah. She stayed up way too late camouflage painting him so she could capture the Sly Girls on camera and kick
to
this
be
story.
15.
She wants to kick the story. Can we blame her?
Yeah, and they're like already like skeptical about Aya. She has to do this whole like monologue that she thinks fame is stupid. And one of the girls changes her name right there because the ranking system started picking up on her and moving her rank up.
Yeah, Kaya's like, who has been talking about me? And they're all like, I don't know. And then she's like, okay, from now on, I'm Jai, because she was already the millionth rank.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think you're just doing it for the dramatics now. You don't need to change your name.
We don't need to see it.
Honestly, I'll give it Jai / Kai / later lie. She really just like fully absorbs this world of like, I want no one to know me, and she runs with it. We have to give her that.
Yeah, I want to say philosophically, it's kind of the same. So Aya is trying to get as famous as she can, and Jai is now finding identity and substance in the complete opposite. And what are opposites if not the same? Really?
Yeah. Wow. That's
that is very interesting. I know. I really liked when they were talking about how they are on the complete other end of the spectrum in terms of like face ranking, but it's still, I don't know, there's like substance to both. Because they talk about that later when like Aya is kind of grilling Eden, where Eden's like, well, you can still be like lonely in front of a crowd of people, you know, which is, whatever, we know that. But
and again, like this entire like, you know, scene instance with all of this conversations of, you know, you could get tired of fame, and you know, well, maybe there is more power in people not knowing you.
It's just both the strive to be different.
Yeah, but we think that's going to be like the big thing that like Aya's going to learn, that she doesn't need to be famous, and we do abandon this plot.
Oh yeah, because when she gives that monologue, she's like, wow, you know, I wanted to be a kicker my whole life, but then I realized you guys are above it and are friends regardless of rank, which I adore. And then you're like, okay, so maybe. And then she's like, but I don't value friendship, actually.
She really doesn't.
Yeah, it's weird. But they go to the cave. They hop the train, go into the cave. Eden has a matter hacker, which is a little device that you can use to hack matter.
It's a pretty convenient plot device. We can call it that as well.
Very convenient plot device. That's a very good word, Ellie. Thank you.
It's like a wand, which is something that Chris should have.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I pictured it like the size of a calculator, and it has like buttons that you press and you can put your code into.
I saw it like a fire poker from like a fireplace set.
Ooh.
Oh, I kind of viewed it like that. I literally viewed it as the thing that Doctor Who has.
Oh yeah, the screwhammer.
Yeah, the screwdriver thing.
Interesting.
Okay.
You can tell how this book was both very descriptive and very non-descriptive with how many things we've seen so differently between the three of us.
Oh my god. I mean, just the time they took to describe them getting on the train was why I was like, I'm tuned out. They are just surfing on a train on the same hoverboard, because at some point they like switch out hoverboards and I was like, nope, not too much. Just they have hoverboards.
And so they're going through this, you know, weird cavern that they are hunting through to find, you know, what's in here and what were these things that these creatures were moving and who are these creatures. And I very much tuned out during this scene because it like turned there. I felt like there was a lot of different parts in this room. Because, like, at one point there's a room full of stuff, and then there's, like, a little crawl space that they go through.
And they went down a ramp at one point? Like,
yeah, there's, like, a little bottomless abyss of pit that they go down.
Oh, yeah. Can we talk about the tunnel? How did you guys view this? I viewed this as long hallway, stairs to the right, and then an open circular room, and then all the metals around that. And then I viewed them crawling through this side, and then the shaft was just, like, literally like kind of an elevator shaft but nothing in it, and then but there's no top to it. I viewed it just going out the mountaintop.
So you know, I viewed it more so you know how you look at a textbook, a history textbook, and there's a pyramid, like an Egyptian pyramid, and you see the cross section of it, kind of.
Yeah,
that's how my head just pictured this tunnel thing, and it just had the different hallways, if you will. And then in the middle of it, because you have to like, I don't know, it was weird because the tunnel went through the middle, but also the the big shooty thing was also in the middle.
Yeah, I had a really hard time visualizing this, and I don't have a good description because, like, I had a very hard time visualizing how they were transitioning between all of these places.
Yes.
So I just kind of kept being like, they're in this space, now they're suddenly in this space, and now they're in this space. Like, I could not figure out how they were, like, transitioning in and out of these things, so I couldn't figure out the layout at all.
This was, like, surprisingly the one that I could visualize, but I don't think I was correct. So that's why I was curious to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
Yeah, I didn't get so specific as to there's a stairway on the right.
Yeah.
Okay, I did. And then also, but, like, then this is the time, too, when they find that, like, airlock or that, like, air shaft.
Yeah.
Which was...
And Aya falls down it, and Eden catches her. Which I was like, is this the love story? Because, like, Eden kind of hates Aya,
right?
and Aya kind of really looks up to her, and I really thought that maybe that was where this book was going to go, too. And it didn't. A lot of directions I wanted this book to go in just never really played out.
Never really got there.
No, yeah. But this is, you know, they see all the big cylinders, and when they're in the big cylinder room, which I viewed as a circular room, Mickey's like, wait, is there something following us?
And that's when we find out Moggle's been here the whole time!
Yeah.
And then it's like this weird, like, it's supposed to be dramatic, like this scene of Aya trying to make sure Moggle doesn't get found, and how can she be in with this clique and also get the footage that she needs?
How can I have the best of both worlds here?
Moggle goes to the top of, what I view as the top of the shaft. This is why I thought there was, like, a hole in the top of the mountain.
I think you're
shaft,
right. That's what I'm picturing, too.
Oh, yeah, I definitely pictured a hole in the top of the shaft.
Okay, nice. And then he sees a train coming, and, okay, we all knew when Aya was like, oh, there's a train coming, and people are like, how? She's like, I felt the ground rumbling. That is when I knew she was fucked. I was like, oh, they know.
Yeah,
They gotta
she
know.
gave herself away immediately. So then it's a whole nother dramatic sequence. There's a lot of, like, action scenes in this book that I really just tuned out of. And this was one. Of them. They have to, like, run back and hide their hoverboards.
Close the door. Hack the matter.
And then everything's fine. And then they go home.
Yeah, Eden's kind of still like, though, she's on edge. She's like, okay, well, how did you know the train is coming? And she's like, I could feel it. And she's like, you know, I've been doing this for so long, I could never feel a train coming. And,
it's like, again, she, like we said, she gave herself away. But Aya's super excited because she's like, I got so much footage of this whole night. But then big thing is, Aya's face rank suddenly, like, goes up hard because somebody has made, a paparazzi person has made a story of Frizz talking to a slime queen outside of her dorm, and it's, of, you know, pictures and videos of her and Frizz talking, and she's just covered in her sewer goop.
And why would
dorm uniform.
Why would a boy like him want to talk to a slime queen?
So I'm like,
That's
and
the
people are just
story.
railing her online, which is hilarious.
oh, yeah, her face ranks up to 26,213, which is insane to climb from, considering she was in the 450s earlier.
But she's like, I don't have time to think about this. I have to go show my brother and his friend all the footage I got to prove to them that the Sly Girls are real.
But she also she also got footage of the guys, right? Of the extra. Is that after?
I don't think she got footage of the people.
Not yet.
Remember, because like later,
no,
she
hasn't yet.
Later, she keeps being like, I didn't get like
you're right.
pictures
She
of them,
sees
so I
them
didn't
from the
put
top
them.
of the train.
Yeah.
That's right.
But then Hero is like really mad at her because she's now doing something very dangerous, and the cylinders look like missiles. That's kind of where this part leaves off.
Oh, yeah. I was so confused about how they got to the missile part because she goes to talk to Ren about it and they start doing, like, math shit. I didn't look up any of that. Was any of that real words?
It was a lot of tech kick slang.
You know, I really trust Scott that he would do the research and make sure that math is right.
I have to agree. I trust an author from Dallas, Texas, talking about a city in Japan.
Yeah.
Where he calls everyone Hyro Sensei.
I mean,
Amen.
Every Asian is good at math, guys. So obviously the math is going to be right.
Yeah, that's definitely what was going through Scott's head.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
this white little bald guy.
Just for the record.
Just for the record.
And now we're in part 2.
We are?
Yeah. That's for part
Oh,
one leads up
wow.
for part two.
We're
Once
flying.
they were like, these are missiles because
flying.
there's special matter in it.
Yeah.
That's what it was. There's special matter that can, like, transform them into, like, missiles. To have wings. They're, like, big cylinder metal things.
Well, they're worried that now, like, there's going to be a war now because they found, like, a big...
They just don't know what this means.
Place.
Like,
they just don't know what it means.
are there these things all over there's a metal shortage. Why are these cylinders just here? Like, where like, where are they getting this metal? And how are they processing it into these cylinders?
Yeah.
We don't know. And neither does Aya. And I think she's going to want to find out.
Well, does she, or does she just want to be famous?
No, she wants to be famous, which is so bad, because if you see something that are missiles that are probably likened to the government, wouldn't you think, if I kick this story, there might be some problems?
Wait,
no, she does not consider consequences at any point in this book.
Let me read you the last sentence of part 1, okay?
Thank you. Oh my god, please.
So, this is Aya speaking. "Sorry, hero, but I have to," she said. "The end of the world isn't something we can kick halfway." So, like, she
needs the whole story.
It really comes back to, I need the whole story. I need to make sure I have some integrity in my journalism and make sure I'm telling the full story.
But as long as it benefits me.
Of course, Laura. What else are we trying to do?
You can't tell a story fully just to make sure people are educated. It has to benefit you.
Oh, for sure. When I pitch, it's an angle that benefits me, but also it's like hot takes on pop culture. It's not like, wow, you know what? I'm just going to declare that this is a missile in a war is going to come out, and then I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode for like 5 days, which is what she does.
Oh my god.
Incredible.
Yeah, so we open with part 2. The slime girls have banned her, and she essentially has to take down her entire feet so her face rank falls because she's just so embarrassed by all the slime queen stuff.
I want to take a moment though to give a nod to Scott Westerfeld for opening part 1 with a quote from a book of his own.
Oh, he did, yeah.
That was incredible.
Honestly, only an icon could.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's from Tally's Manifesto, is the first quote on part 1. I read that.
Wait, can I read it? I'm going to read it to everybody.
Yes, please.
Okay. "You all say you need us. Well, maybe you do, but not to help you. You have enough help with the millions of bubbly new minds about to be unleashed, with all the cities coming awake at last. Together, you're more than enough to change the world without us. So from now on, David and I are here to stand in your way. You see, freedom has a way of destroying things." Tally Youngblood. Scott Westerfeld.
Wow.
It's very Michael Scott Wayne Gretzky.
It really is.
Jesus Christ.
And then, like, part 2 is like Othello or
No,
something.
it's
he
from
quotes.
The Frenzy of Renown by Leo Braudy.
I have no idea what
Part
that
3 is definitely Othello, because I remember reading that and I was like, okay. All right, there's a lot happening here.
And I like, okay, so now that Aya's face rank has fallen, after these like 2 weeks of her being like incognito mode, her only solution is to bring more cameras with her on her next trip with them. And it's too windy, so it's just Eden and Kai.
Yeah, Eden just comes to pick her up with Kai. It's just the 3 of them.
And they're like, "Yep, the other girls are taking the night off. It's a little too windy, but we figured, you'd have fun with us because you've been on parole, essentially." And they go there, and I was like, "Look, the Matter Hacker works on the cylinder," and they're like, "Okay, we don't care." And then they push her down the shaft.
They do. Oh, I was so excited. I was like, finally, karma.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, but it's just a joke." But then they're like, "But here, look at this hover sled we've made." And it's this weird contraption where they've like taped a bunch of like hoverboards together.
Yeah. And then before she can like know what's going on, they just like
assault her again.
Cuff her
They
down
do.
to the...
Yeah, they're aggressive.
They bind her.
before they can explain anything about the sled, they've, like, pushed her, strapped her in, locked her in, and then they, like, unleash and be like, we know what you've been doing with us. Like, you're so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
She's just a dumb little girl.
As Jesus was nailed to the cross, Aya was nailed to the hoverboards.
Oh my god.
So the mountain's kind of like Calvary.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
so, and
let my people go.
And Aya's like whiny, complaining, and she's like, I just wanted to kick a good story.
You don't understand. I just want to
Oh, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. By the way, here's a backpack with a homemade parachute that we made.
Yeah. They're like, don't worry.
Pissed.
They're like, don't worry, we're coming with you, and we're gonna let you kick the story. We're just gonna disappear forever. Hope the homemade parachute works.
Yeah.
There's a board waiting for you on the track somewhere. You'll have to go find it.
Good luck. Hope a train doesn't come.
Oops.
But you'll be able to feel it, right?
Yeah, and it's...
I don't know, I kind of loved when they were like, fuck you, because they said many times they wanted to be anonymous.
Oh, yeah, it was very true to their
It was very
characters,
obvious, and it was very Aya never refusing to give them that boundary.
Mm-hmm. Also, before they throw her, they launch her into space, Jai brings up, she's like, okay, moment of empathy, I guess, kind of for you. Just, did you ever think that the people who have these missiles might be dangerous if you release this story?
I mean...
And Aya's like, no.
You can't...
Because, again, Aya doesn't think about consequences.
You can't half-ass kicking the end of the world.
Yeah,
Maggie.
like, the big thing...
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
Jai slash Kai is
like a weirdo.
I know, she's like, we're leaving because, like, it's not good to be around here when, like, all of this, like, when people find out, and I was like, I'm still gonna tell everybody because I want to be famous, and she's like, okay, you little nerd.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, I do love she really doesn't learn her lesson. You would think that this character would build it all, but this is a character that has remained stagnant.
She is so two-dimensional. She has no arc. Mm-hmm. All she does is just, like, make things worse and complain. That's what she does.
Yeah, so she gets launched into space and she somehow lands. You know, where it would be interesting to have, like, 40 chapters like Scott Westerfeld loves to do about action, maybe hiking back would have been cool.
I thought we were going to hike back for a while, but no, what do we do instead, everybody?
The next chapter, we're at
the party,
ready.
The story has been edited together, and it's kicking tonight.
Yep, it's the big night.
Also, she's dyed her hair purple.
And she's wearing a big, sparkly dress.
Uh-huh. The batteries we don't want to waste down the batteries. So.
I had a very specific image in mind for when she had dyed her hair purple. She has this new dress that has a corset and is puffy. Mm-hmm. And she's wearing, like, those skater shoes.
Converse?
Oh.
No, the big, thick skater shoes with them.
That's
I
an
don't know
image.
what you're talking about.
Like the Claire Danes at the Met ball a few years ago.
I just know at one point they said she was wearing platforms, so I just pictured, like, high heels.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely, she has platforms, I know I'm wrong, but I just imagined her being the most insufferable person and wearing those huge, like, Spencer's gift shop skater shoes
So
with
funny.
this
like the
puffy
girls
dress.
who would wear pajama pants with the Cookie Monster on them wore those shoes.
Yes! You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
I know what you're talking about.
Oh my god. And there's a few pages of her just, like, taking it in the party.
The DC shoes, those big ones.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. With, like, but you can see them out of her puffy skirt.
You can see them from space.
Yeah.
They light up when she walks.
Yeah.
They have Heelys in them, so she can roll on by.
They have Heelys in them.
But she's ready. She's really excited. She gets to go there, and Hyro and Ren are like, oh, well, we don't want to be seen with this ugly, but we kind of have to bring her as a plus one.
Yeah.
Well, they have to bring her because it's her story that's kicking.
And he agreed to, like, her brother, who's famous, agreed to, like, bump her story. Re-kick it. Thank you, Maggie.
Yeah. All his feed is going to be is just a link to her feed. And then Toshi, who's a famous tech kicker as well, like, comes up to them. And Aya is so embarrassing around him because he's like, ha ha ha, who's this girl? Are you dating her? And he goes, that's my sister. And Aya's like, yeah, and after tonight, we're going to be a zillion times more famous than you.
Was his last name Banana, or did I make that up?
He was the unnamed one, right?
Yeah, his name was Toshi
nameless one.
something.
So Voldemort,
something.
I think, is
exactly
what we're going to go with.
He does. He's kind of contrarian just to be fun.
He doesn't have any point in the story.
No,
he doesn't.
He's really there for a minute.
I thought he was gonna have a bigger point
too.
because when after Aya's story gets kicked is when like his whole like entourage, for some reason Scott Westerfeld's like they were whispering in the corner, and then Aya gets like reporters asking her questions, and they're like, "How do you feel now that you're a traitor?" And I was like, "Oh, does Toshi have some shit going on?"
Yeah, it's super weird.
He could have.
After the exchange with Toshi is when they decide to kick the story because they're like, we need the spotlight back. And it takes like 20 minutes for like it to be the thing that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Oh
And
yeah,
she-
Aya's face rank is 17 now.
Yeah.
And she left out
Huge.
the figures, like the what do you call
Yeah,
them?
she
The monkey
left out the
people?
figures from her story because she didn't have any pictures of them, which I think makes sense.
I think it
She
makes
also
sense.
blurred.
Yeah, like...
Yeah.
But she's
I
also
was just
half
like-
kicking the end of the world, which is what she said she wasn't going to do. So.
Yeah, but it's not I didn't see it as half kicking. I would just see like, look at this place I found. Like,
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was basically like there's cylinders here that could be missiles. She honestly, she was like, objectively they are missiles because of all of these things.
I can prove that they're missiles. I smart hacked them with my Matter hacker.
And then
sure
I'm pretty
of it.
sure she also blurred out all of the Sly Girls' faces.
She did.
But I mean, hey, that bumped her up to rank 17. So if
Was it worth it, Aya? And she's just like immediately like, oh my god, they like
This
me.
is what I
They
always wanted.
really like me. Yeah, she.
oh yeah, because Nana Love also re-kicks it.
Yeah, and so she's getting all of these questions. She's answering these things. Frizz eventually has to drag her away because she just needs a glass of water because she's been talking nonstop.
Ugh.
She gets upset that people start to think the story is fake, and she's like offended, and she's like, I'll ruin them first. And it's like, Aya, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you've been famous for a minute.
Oh yeah, get ready, babe. You're gonna need to get
Yeah.
some bots to slam other people for you.
Yeah, it's so weird. And then she's really excited because Nana Love pings her, but then another ping comes in.
She gets a mysterious ping.
Yeah, she gets one in like black ink that isn't pretty
Yeah.
at
Written in
all.
blood.
Nana Love's invitation there was like covered in sparkles and goo, and Tally's was just black.
Yeah, it's Tally. Tally's the person
Surprise,
that messages
it's
her.
Tally.
Surprise. Yeah, so it was Tally that messaged her, and all it says is, run and hide, we're coming right now. And so then we're in like a weird action chase scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, they panic and she starts running with her DC shoes and
Yeah.
her huge
And she's got like a swarm of paparazzi cams just following her wherever she's going.
And
Yeah.
Frizz comes with her, which I don't really get why.
I think we need to take a second and explain Frizz's click. We never got into the
Yeah,
radical
now's a
honesty.
good time to explain his click.
we kind of
Ellie,
discussed it a little
A-
bit.
a
but
little
you
bit.
we need to go in depth. It's not enough for the listeners.
It's not enough, if I'm being honest, Maggie. So
That's fair.
he was distraught over not being able to control his truths and his lies in his normal day life, and he thought, what if I was unable to lie due to surgery to my brain? I think that would be a really great idea for me as a person. So he goes through this surge, if we will. I think that's how they refer to it. And he is incapable of lying or any deceit, trying to hide the truth. If someone asks a question, he'll blurt it out, even if he's not asked directly. And on one hand, you can see why that would be really obnoxious in a lot of ways. And then on the other hand, it's still that obnoxious in a lot of ways. And
on another hand, it is just another plot device.
It really is.
Lots of plot devices in this book.
He goes with them, and it's like, you've talked to this girl once.
Yep.
Literally once.
It's so weird. Is this the part where he says he misses her?
yeah,
Or is that later?
I think
he
you're
was
right.
like, he comes up to her in the party, and he's like, I missed you. And I'm just like, you do not know each other. It was so creepy.
It's the most pathetic love story I've ever read.
It's not
God, it
intriguing.
makes no sense. And then it's like, yeah, they're both being chased by like cameras and then alien hover cars. And again, a very unnecessary action sequence. Frizz gets like, the aliens have needles in their fingertips.
Yeah.
And Frizz gets stuck with one of them and just collapses.
He does. He just collapses, and also so useless. He can't even he can't drive a hover like one of those little hover cars that they have.
Hoverboards.
He can't like ride on the hoverboards.
Oh, the hoverboards. Yeah, so he has to ride with Aya.
It just slows her down.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And then he collapses, which is like another annoying thing.
Very.
And Aya somehow is able to like jump on the alien and like stab his own finger needles into him, so he passes out. Mm-hmm. And then Aya looks up and is like, "Oh, thank God, Moggle's here, and he got the shot, so I can kick this later." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that is what you are concerned with right now. You are being hunted, and you're relieved that your hover camera got the fucking shot. Mm-hmm. I was so done at this point. I was like, "You're fucking kidding me."
You're not worried. You're just like, "Oh, got the shot." Like,
oh my God.
Your boyfriend might be dead. Like, you don't know.
Exactly. And also, when they were talking at the party, I was like, these two are the least compatible people I've ever, like, talked to or listened about. Mm-hmm. Because I think, well, actually, maybe they did it on the soccer field. But he was like, okay, so you're going to kick this story without their permission?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I mean, I don't really know. And he's like, but do they not want to be famous? I was just genuinely confused because I was like, he seems like he has a smidgen of integrity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why? I don't know. But he doesn't care by the end of the book, apparently.
No, it's weird. So they hide in the sewer back from part 1. That's where Ren, Hyro, and Frizz, and Moggle, because he's there to get the shots.
Yeah, because the hover cams are following her because she's, like, way too famous right now. So she's like, where will they go?
Yeah, and then Hyro keeps being, like, really mad that she left the aliens out of the story, but she keeps being like, I just didn't have any pictures of them, which I was like, again, fair. She didn't have any pictures of them.
Right.
Like,
oh, for sure.
Like, would you believe
why is everyone so mad? Like, it's not even she didn't tell the full story. It's like she couldn't tell the full story because she didn't know what was like about them.
They call it truth slanting. Hyro accuses her of truth slanting, which is a heinous crime to the kicker community.
Yeah.
But a very cute moment. Her and Frizz share their first kiss in a storm sewer.
Yeah, in front of her brother after he's just yelled at her.
That's fair.
And Frizz explains to her, like, I just lied all the time, and then they kiss on the hoverboard above the murky waters while her brother is just watching them, and Ren is trying to find any hint of the aliens that Aya might not have edited out.
Yep. So he's, like, lost in his eye screen, which is another tech thing we just have to accept. Let your imagination use that. But Frizz wakes up, and he looks around, he says, Aya, isn't the story that you kicked about the graffiti, wasn't that based down here in these tunnels? And she goes, oh, you looked back at my feed? Oh my God, yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, yeah, but all of the people that you're famous to now are going to come look down here because you're running from everybody. And they're like, oh shit, crap, we have to run again.
Yeah, and just when that happens, they start to see camera lights come through the grates. I'm like, oh, well, that's perfect timing. Glad they thought of it then.
That'd be a pretty shitty place to get caught. It's like, okay, where do the hot celebs go after they become famous? The sewers.
That's so funny. But you guys guessed it. There's another unnecessary chase scene of them trying to get to Shuffle Mansion, which is a mansion for famous people. And the rule is when you're famous enough, you can just go and declare that you have an apartment there.
That's very
that was crazy.
Give you one.
Can I say that?
Yeah, they were like, authorized, not you. And then she was like, apartment 36, mine. And they were like, okay.
They're like, okay, have fun. Here you go.
And the whole thing is the hover cams have to stay 50, like, meters or yards away from them. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's
they have
bubble.
the
reputation bubble is what they call it.
That's what it was called. I was going to call it the fame bubble. And I was like, that's not it.
So
they're hiding in this apartment, and that's when Ren finally finds out. He's like, oh, I know, here, let me show my eye screen on the wall screen, which again, listener, use your imagination. Yeah.
It's like a Chromecast.
He's like, here's what I found, here's why the aliens are chasing you.
It really is like Iron Man, because didn't he also have like one of those like glasses that kind of like pop out of his face when he's like looking at it?
I always
go on the ice.
I also picture it's the 3rd episode of season 1 of Black Mirror, where people essentially can see all their memories and put them on TV screens.
That's what I thought of it too.
That's how I thought of it.
Which is crazy, because this was a long time before that episode of Black Mirror.
Could you imagine if Black Mirror was just inspired by this book? Because, like, this is very Nosedive as well, the one with all the rankings.
I would go into a deep depression.
I think God gets out of her poofy dress and gets a ranger costume.
She keeps on her DC trainers, though. Her big chunky shoes. And at that same time, there's like something kind of like metamorphosizing through the wall, and they're like, "Oh shit!"
And then suddenly they realize the wall's getting matter hacked, which again we know exactly what that means.
Yeah, just like go with it.
And none other than Tally Youngblood shows up.
Oh yeah, the chapter ends on the best line ever. It goes, "I'm Tally Youngblood, and this is a special circumstance." And I literally threw my book across the room.
I was so mad. Like, this is where the book gets, like, stupid dumb. Yeah. This is also where we learned their Japanese, because, like, I was like, it was Tally-sama, and I really hope my English is okay. And we're like, English? You've been speaking English this whole time, because that's how this book is written.
Yeah. They also, when Tally, they're in her presence, they, like, ramp up the bowing a lot.
And Tally has to go, stop bowing, it's weird.
It was, that was a lot. That was when we were all like, uh-oh.
It was a lot. And Shay's also there. Yeah. And that's when we learn also, like, a lot of things happen. I wrote on one page where Tally's like, stop bowing. We learn their Japanese. We also learn that Shay is there. And then we also learn that the reputation, like, ranking lifestyle is only in this city.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anywhere else.
But Tally is still somehow number one.
Confused? Yeah. And it's just like, it's insane where it was just like, we've just learned so much all at once.
And I think we don't even quite have confirmation yet that this is not Tally's home city. Like, you kind of just assume that there's like there's one city, and you're like, okay, there's been some changes since then.
Yeah, Japanese. Yeah, that's
for the most part.
So you thought this city, the one in Japan, was also like her old city?
I had no reason not to.
Yeah,
I
thought the exact same way, because I was like, why would we go from like a city and world in California that we've been existing in to a city in Japan
with no
not even saying like the lights of Japan, like, shone brightly, and IFUs was 15 in her dorm room.
The story of Tally Youngblood traveled across the globe, and now we know about it in every... one sentence. It would take one sentence.
It would have taken literally a word saying, a sentence, we're in Tokyo. All we needed in the beginning of the book.
Yeah, exactly. They really didn't explain how she, like, liberated the world. Really, it just felt like surrounding cities.
That would have been a good fourth book. Not this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this was it gets so stupid. We also learned that Fausto is here. Shay and Fausto are like Tally's like second in command, which is weird because like the third book leaves off that like she's not going to associate with these people directly anymore. Now they're suddenly a team again.
And she's like, well, I guess I'll have to tell David to come too. And
but we all know how much he hates cities. Like, there's just so many
so hacked.
Like obvious gag like nods to these previous books, but it's just like no one talks like that. These characters don't talk like that. I've just read 3 books of these characters, and they do not act like they used to anymore.
Yeah, Ellie, God bless you for reading the first 3 when Scott was like, you know what, you really don't have to with extras, because we will outlay the entire book's plots every time we bring up these characters.
But only kind of, like only like subtly.
I thought he was way heavy-handed.
Oh, well, I mean, it was just annoying. Like, it was just stupid. I got so mad reading this.
I did love, though, when Tally came, because, like, oh god, yes, they are caricatures of themselves, but they put Aya in her place so hard, and I was like, fucking thank you.
And Tally's like, cool, everybody come with us, and Aya's like, oh my god, is Moggle gonna be able to follow me to get the story? And I'm like, there's literally explosions going on as you guys are, like, on your way out of the city. What?
Quite truly.
Yeah, she was like, well, we need to document this for history. And Tally's like, I've read history. I don't want to be history. History's just me. And she's like,
And, like, this is, I don't know if you guys get this. They keep saying, like, this takes, like, 3 years after the mind drain. I feel like this should have taken place, like, 30 years after the mind drain. And Tally should be in her, like, 30s by now, like, or 40s. Like, I feel like Tally should be an adult now because it feels weird because Tally just doesn't act like Tally anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also
special,
they came
Laura,
to a
so.
pretty fast economic political system decision being like, this is what we're going to implement in 3 years.
It took no time at all.
Listen, I've seen a presidency. You can't get anything done in 4.
Yeah, there's another unnecessary chase scene.
Can't legislate change either, so.
Is there a 2-party system in this world?
Oh, wow. The questions that we were dying to know.
I do also like, they're like, what? Stop bowing to us. And then they're like, wow, your face. And then they're like, no, what is the merit system? We don't know. And then Tally's getting really annoyed. She's like, you all have feeds? You guys are you're still self-absorbed.
Yeah, there's like a weird, like, another culture shock where it's just questioning everything. But they're in this weird chase scene. And then, we just learned that Tally and Shay and Foster are trying to get them all captured, and that's how this part ends.
I loved that. That was my favorite. They had this exchange on 269 in my book between Tally and Aya, and I was like, fucking get her ass, because Tally, like, lied to use them as bait, essentially.
Yeah, this is beginning of part 3, here's the wake-up juice, let's go.
And Tally was like, I just didn't explain the detail of our plans. And she's like, we trusted you and you got us captured. And she's like, sorry, but explaining our plans to some feed-happy random didn't seem like a very icy idea. We couldn't risk you turning it into your next big story. And she's like, I never would have done that. And she's like, that's what you told the Sly Girls. And I was like, booyah. But she says, why was Tally twisting everything? Bitch, no, she's not. She says, that was totally different. I may have misled the Sly Girls, but I didn't use anyone as bait. And she said, not as bait, but you did use them.
Yeah, that's also earlier on when she wakes up she's given wake-up juice to wake up. Which, listeners, use your best imagination.
Users, imagine this concept, coffee.
But, like,
pouring hot coffee on her, like,
future.
oh no, I gave you too much.
But in the future. Future coffee.
I know, and again, off of that, I also highlighted something because I thought this entire exchange is so funny because Aya's just so mad that somebody would use
the same thing.
Like, she goes, you don't, but how do you think this feels? Like, you're the most famous person in the world and you used us. And Tally goes, how do I think it feels? I know what it's like to be manipulated, Ayala, and I know what it's like to be in danger. While your city was building you mansions to live in, my friends and I have been protecting this planet. We've spilled more blood than you have flowing in your veins, so don't you try to make me feel guilty.
I mean, where's the lie, though?
I know, it's true, but it's also just like, there's a lot going on between Aya and Tally having to, just catch up.
They just met. They just met.
That is true. And then, like, at one point, Frizz and Aya kiss in front of Tally, and Tally's like, the last person I kissed died. And I was like, okay, well, that fills in some blanks. Her and David haven't kissed yet.
I know. I was sure in the 3 years they would have fucked at least once.
Laura.
Yeah, I don't know, because they kept hinting at a romantic relationship in this book, too, and I was like, but they haven't kissed.
So, like, we kind of get a window into that at the very end.
At the very end, yeah.
But I agree. She just seems quite avoiding, like, what's what I'm looking for? She's avoiding their PDA. She doesn't want to see it. She's like, getting very in her own mind about like kissing. Which I just want to say is a theme throughout the entire series is that women's only motivation or drive is based on a male. It's truly it. It's truly it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The peak of that was when she and David ended up together in the specials.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
So annoying.
We also do learn that Moggle is still following us, everybody.
My man.
And she's also number 8.
Not only following us, but has magnetized to the bottom of this little hover car that they have been kidnapped in, which is pretty
I was like,
impressive.
hell yeah, I'm still going to be able to kick this. And we're like, I don't know if we're supposed to be able to root for Aya. Like, I don't know. Was that the point? Are we supposed to be on Aya's side?
I want
like,
to say that Aya was the social
I don't know.
commentary.
She's not likable.
I kept hoping she would die.
That's fair.
I'm not kidding, the whole book.
Honestly, that would have been a good ending. If she dies and people are like, yeah, she goes down as history as this annoying girl that her face rank jumped really quickly.
Yeah.
And then this is when we start to learn that Frizz is woken up, and boy, his inability to lie might start being
It might be a problem.
big issue.
Oh, yeah, because Tally, Shay, and Fausto have these ugly faces on, and they're like, tell them when you guys wake up that we have a language barrier difference because we're friends from a different country, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, and
okay, but Frizz can't lie.
And then the two aliens show up, and one guy's name is Udzer. Udzer. He's just a cool alien.
He's a cool guy.
He's like, guys, we are not going to kill you. Welcome to what used to be Singapore. And I think when you guys figure out what we're doing here, y'all are gonna love it. It reminds me of very much of like.
Yeah, he's like, food and beverage cart will be coming
I
around
kept picturing
soon.
like you know in Monsters Inc. when they run into the abominable snowman, he's like, "Hey, you guys want some snow cones?"
Yeah.
That's kind of how like this scene played out to me. But they're all like, "It's a lot more serious than that."
They really didn't even give them a chance to explain themselves, and they seem pretty cool. They were getting me on when they're like, once we explain ourselves, you'll be on our
You know,
sides.
and then Frizz is like, "Oh, gee, I can't keep it in anymore. That's Tally Youngblood, the most famous person in the whole wide world."
Yeah.
And then we have another unnecessary fight scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Shay and Fausto and Tally all have to leap into action to, I don't know, kill the guy? Kill Utsker?
Yeah.
For some
and then
reason.
Shay, they get control of the hover car, and Shay's like, "I don't know how to drive a hover car." And I'm like, "You're a special. You absolutely know how to fly a hover car." Tally knew how to fly a hover car in book 2 just by herself.
Yeah, didn't
Like-
Tally, like, knock them out? Tally knocked out the driver, and it just starts, like, going crazy. And
Yeah.
because she's just like, I don't fucking care, I'm mad.
And so then they all have to jump out of this hovercraft.
Yeah.
Yep, and they're falling.
And don't worry, Moggle is following them while they're trying to get safely into the woods.
But Tally does for a minute. She's like, maybe we should leave Frizz behind. And Allie is like, no. And Frizz is like, no, really, leave me behind. See, this is where I don't think Frizz wants to be in the book, because this is his third time being like, leave me behind. No, please.
I just think he's a helpless little emo boy.
Yeah.
No, please don't leave me behind. I'll just be thinking about you this whole time while I'm out here alone.
His mystery is just being a cuck. That's just who he is.
God, that's his
It
mystery.
is.
Yeah, God, this is so weird. And Tally and Shay have like a little fight. They're like, "We just do this," and I was like, "You guys kind of outgrew it in the last book, but here we are again. You guys just did a big character change, but okay."
Yeah. I don't think we mentioned that Tally also wants to get caught because they had a friend who was
Yeah.
who
We didn't- I
saw
don't think
the figure.
I think we mentioned casually. We didn't touch
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
on that. And that isn't mentioned enough that's why they're here.
It's not.
Like, it's mentioned briefly twice.
Oh, yeah, they only came to use the people as bait because they had a friend.
Exactly. And yeah, then we learn like they kiss, and Tally's like, "The last person I kissed died," and then Frizz is like, "You shouldn't give up on kissing because of that," which I again almost wanted to throw the book when I read that.
Yeah, that was a lot. But they land in the middle of the jungle because Uzer, whatever, he was like, this is what the Rusties used to call Singapore. So they're in Singapore. They are in the heart of the
You
jungle.
know, I just want to
Yeah.
check really
Musty.
quick and see how long it takes to fly from Tokyo to Singapore.
Yeah, were
yeah.
were they doing like spin moves in the air? Because I was like, that's not a far flight.
It felt like they...
But they were like, "You've been asleep for 6 hours."
Is it
Ooh,
around
7
6
hours. 7 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh.
Okay, so Scott looked up one
so these
thing.
hover cars are just a little bit faster than an airplane.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And Tally and Aya and Frizz all land kind of far away from the rest of them. So, like, Fausto, Hyro, and Ren. Was there another... Oh, and Shay.
Shay.
Duh. I'd combine them. But they are in a different place, and Aya's like, oh, I'll just ping them. And Tally's like, no pings.
No, you dumb bitch.
Go alone.
Yeah. Like, you stupid bitch. Tally steals hover balls from civilians so that they can travel through the jungle faster.
rigs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah.
I really started zoning out at this part, like these like last 100 pages, because I was like, I'm just trying to get this over
I think
with.
that's fair. That's admirable.
Because it was just like, it just started getting just like, there was just so much and yet so little happening all at the same time.
Oh, they just kept having philosophical conversations.
Yeah, and they're all trying to like meet at like the highest building and like the what's left of their rusty ruins. But
which is probably
and then
beautiful,
it's
because Singapore is a beautiful country.
yeah, exactly. But then it's just like another like weird scene with just Tally, Aya, and Frizz like going through the jungle.
Okay, did they get to the, oh god, because they got to the top of a building, but there was also, I zoned out to this point, and then I came back when like Tally, Aya, and Frizz are somewhere, and Tally just like flings one of the Inhumans off of a building. And Aya's like, Moggle, go save him. Because I was like, I am living. Tally doesn't give a fuck. She was just like, I'll kill this person.
Yeah.
Why not?
She needed the ball rig. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what she did it for.
Yeah. Go Tally, honestly.
And she takes what she
'em.
wants. I like that
And
spirit.
she needed a hoverball rig to get these two noobs through this fucking jungle.
So otherwise, it's going to take forever.
Exactly.
And Moggle goes somewhere else. He like flies. So he catches the creature that we're calling them extras. I think that's kind of the name of the book. And he catches it, and it just is in the jungle somewhere. And we're like, okay, thanks for your Thank you for your service, I suppose. Moggle.
And this is when, guys, did you have the hardest time tracking this logic? Because I didn't. When Tally was like, no pings, so no hovercrafts and cars will find us. Let's swing like monkeys on the little rigs, the hovercraft rigs. And this is somehow when they realize that the inhuman things are people who surge themselves to look like monkeys and swing from vines, and from that logic was where they were like, oh, the metal isn't missiles, they are just trying to stop expansion.
Well, this is where it gets super weird, because when they all meet up again, I was like, I just figured out what these body mods are for, and Hero's like, I literally said that 100 pages ago.
Yeah.
Like, where have you been? Like, it got really confusing, because, like, Hyro had already mentioned, like, that this is probably why these people's, like, mods are like this, to make them more like monkeys. And I goes, it's to make them more like monkeys! And they're like, yeah! What the fuck? It got so confusing. And then Frizz is like, I don't think those cylinders are bombs. And it's like, what? Like, what? Since when? I got really confused here.
I mean,
I
feel
could not follow it.
I kind of see the jump, Maggie. I kind of see how they jump from the let's swing like monkeys to they're trying to make a settlement in zero gravity, because they kind of talk it through. They're like, oh, well, it would not. Why wouldn't they need feet? Why do they have extra hands on their feet? Oh, because it's more useful to have hands instead of feet if you don't need to walk. I was like, okay, I'll give you that, because, okay, true.
Yeah, that is fair. I didn't realize that it was zero gravity, because there was a lot of that sort of terminology in this, which is why I could not figure out what the fuck was going on.
Again, a lot of things happened, and a lot of things weren't explained fully.
The reader was left to make a lot of jumps.
The reader really had to, like, read between the lines and make a lot of inferences and educated guesses as to, like, what was actually going on.
Which is frustrating, because there are so many lines in here. So you had
my favorite was the half page where Frizz is like, oh, I'm going to need some tetanus meds. And she goes, what's tetanus? And then he has to explain to her what tetanus is.
Oh my god.
She's like, oh, I'm going to need one of those too. Like, yes,
me too.
You
Same.
will. You also need vaccines. Thank you.
Yeah.
Got your
also,
COVID
like,
shot.
if Frizz is a pretty, he would never get tetanus.
Yeah. God, but Tally's like, you know what, Shay will have that once we get to the tallest tower.
She's like a pharmacist.
Yeah, exactly. Shay, like, has this new hobby, but she's a pharmacist.
That's like her thing. She loves to carry meds with her.
We're actually a little worried about her, but we're going to let her have her fun for now.
Yeah, she's cute. It's cute.
We're concerned about Shay. I don't know. She's always carrying pills. It's like a weird quirky.
It's so weird.
She moves and it sounds like
so quirky and cute.
Like a maraca.
Like a maraca?
Oh my god,
yeah, because the pills.
Yeah.
Shaking the pills like a maraca.
You're right. They all do somehow agree to meet at the tallest tower.
Because that's what the usual place
meet us at the usual place.
I couldn't tell if this was a part of the city or if it was like an old ruin, you know?
I think it's the rusty ruin. Like, this is another rusty ruin, and
Yeah. And David's also there now. He's brought some
Somehow
extra hoverboards.
David is there
David
too.
got there so quickly. He's just been like ready to hop into Singapore.
Okay. I need a second on this timeline.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. So our heroes are sitting in Aya's new apartment in Shuffle Mansion when Tally hacks the screen. So she, Shay, and Fausto hop into the room. This is Tokyo. So where were they before they came here? And why was David so close yet not with them? Like, if they traveled via wall screen smart matter, which my brain is just letting happen, that's how they traveled.
I think her and David kind of decided for the past 3 years to go abroad. I think that they were studying abroad, so they were already like over there.
But like also like they really had to be in like the right place at the right time, because they're like, we've been going all over finding these mountains.
She had to go.
And the moment that Aya's story gets kicked, they're like, great, we'll be there in 20 minutes.
And she had to go get Shay from Diego, remember?
Yeah.
Wait, she had to go
She had to go pick up Shay
Diego?
from Diego.
Jesus.
So they were not nearby. So that means David either had been waiting in Singapore?
It doesn't make any sense. Or the time here is...
I like to think he was eating a baguette in Paris and he got that ping and he's like, shit,
he
and he all dribbles down his chin like
I have to go.
Oui.
Yeah, he did a French accent.
Au revoir.
He skipped art history class.
Yeah, and then they're also talking about, they're like, well, we're at the equator, and this is really the best place to shoot missiles into orbit.
Obviously.
Is that true? Is that?
I mean,
I actually think that is true, and that's why
equator.
Cuba was such a hot commodity during the Cold War crisis. That and because of its
very
closeness, its
interesting.
proximity to the States, but also because
Is it because of the
equator.
heat?
What?
Is it because of the heat?
No, it's because of the equator.
What? I don't know what the equator does.
It's like-
I don't know. Explain to me
the
like
equator's
there's
Okay.
It makes it hot.
So you know,
exactly.
like the Earth doesn't
Sunshine to
go
strike me,
around the sun in a circle.
Faster.
In a
You go
perfect
faster.
circle. Yes. So you can slingshot it. Kind of like, I think it was Armageddon, the movie where they're like, we have to go now so we can get the slingshot. So you have like, whoosh, around it.
Is Armageddon the one with the Aerosmith song that's like, I
don't
don't want to
close
close my eyes?
Yes.
That is the most romantic song.
And it's a pretty romantic movie.
It really
When
is.
you think about it, she has to lose her fiance or her dad.
And then Superstar covers it, the movie with Molly Shannon. Great movie.
Wow.
What a movie. We should all watch that sometime. Next time we all hang out.
That'll be fun.
We should.
Armageddon's great.
Oh my god.
But so now they're all like in this tower and they're like, okay, you guys stay here. We're gonna go fix this. And I was like, but what about my story? And they're like, again, not important. Stay here.
And then, so, Tally, Shay, and Fausto leave, and then Aya's like, this is bullshit, let's go to their base.
Yeah,
Fuck
Aya's
it,
like,
mask off.
Aya goes, this is bullshit. I need my story. And they're like, did you not listen to a single thing they just said?
We just covered this, honey. Like, critical thinking is not part of your skill set, is it?
And she goes, first, let's go get Moggle. And they go on an adventure to get Moggle. That is literally what happens.
Yep.
Like, nobody, like, I cannot believe these people are like, yep, well, she's gotta get a story. Like, you guys have never been here
You're all
before.
enabling her at this point.
You guys do not know what is going on.
Toxic friend group, enabling
Jesus.
Aya.
And then to top it all off, after they've already, disobeyed the entire plan, they're gonna go get a story. They're enabling her. They have to go rescue Moggle to make sure they really get the story. We have another scene where Frizz goes, I'm gonna need some malaria meds after this. And I shit you not, Aya goes, what's malaria? And this is, oh my gosh, this is 20 pages apart that we've had 2 half-pages conversations about how Aya doesn't know what these diseases are. And then Frizz has to go on about how he took, like, a medical disease course for fun.
He was researching his clique.
And they're like, they're supposed to be saving the world, and we're taking time to talk about malaria and tetanus?
Yeah.
Man, Aya's gonna be super fucked when come COVID, am I right?
I don't think.
Oh my
I think
God.
Aya's anti-vax. I don't think she'd get her COVID shot.
She is definitely anti-vax.
Dear listener, this book just gets laughable at this point. Because shit just keeps happening, and it's so stupid and doesn't make any sense. And to have two conversations where some dumb girl has to go, "What's this disease?" And the guy has to go, "Well, it's a disease like this."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Frizz here is like, maybe I'll be a doctor. And then Aya's like, maybe I'll join Antifa.
Word for word, quoted in this book is exactly what happened.
Scott Westerfeld predicted Antifa.
Page 344. That's where Aya goes on record and says, "I'm gonna join Antifa."
It was pretty crazy. Scott Westerfeld predicted that, and no one had eyes on him. The government just let him go.
Book full of predictions. That's what Extras is. So now we have a fun little journey. They find the base, which is like a bunch of tents, a bunch of tents that get bigger, and emptier. I really started to, again. I've been saying this. I really started tuning out at this point because they just keep like using their sneak suits and they go in the tent and they're like, "Hey, that freak's using nanos to make the metal all liquidy."
Yeah, and then they're like, "It looks like a boat."
Yeah,
I said like a boat, not definitely a boat. Like, what's the conversation?
Then it's like, is it a boat or a bigger missile? It's like,
oh my god.
And then they get to a different tent. And they realize that they've been spotted in their sneak suits. Mm-hmm. And, again, a twist we didn't see coming. Moggle starts talking to them.
Oh, shit. Yep. Wait, before this, so they find Moggle in the woods, and she sees him coming towards them, and he flashes his lights, but she notices that he doesn't do the high beams. She notices that it's just like a nice, subdued flash. Which is such an odd sentence. And then she's like, "Oh my god, Mogul, you're learning." Which should have been a sign, because like the Sly Girls would have caught that, but she did not.
Which is like also like the only arc in this book is Mogul.
Mogul has some growth.
And Moggle's arc is that he learned not to flash his high beams. That is the only arc in this entire book. I dare one of you to find another character arc in this book.
That character growth was incredible.
You really cannot. All these characters are two-dimensional.
Doesn't exist otherwise.
She's like, "Mogul, you can talk," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was listening to you this whole book, but I just was ignoring you."
Yeah, and then the aliens come back out and they're like, "Sorry, we rewired your friend because we wanted to talk to you better."
She's like, "You've been watching me this whole time." And she's like, she's more offended that they've been watching her than she is like upset that they got caught. She's more.
She's such a hypocrite.
All she wants is her story. Mm-hmm. Because again, and then another big twist here. Mm-hmm. They're like, we're so glad we caught you guys. We've been really just trying to explain this, and we have somebody else here to explain it to you.
God. It's Andrew Smith.
It's Andrew Simpson Smith, you might remember as a very small character in the last two books.
Our favorite himbo.
And he's there to be like, "Guys, you remember when I thought the Earth was flat? It's not." And these guys have finally made me believe that.
Pretty good character growth there.
This book is insane! Are you kidding me? We went from a book about these girls who ride trains, and now we're here with a character that was only kind of in the last two books, talking about how the Earth is in fact round.
Mm-hmm. And he no longer fears the little white men. Like,
and then they're like,
he's like, "I've taken over the alien base. I found out in the past book that the Earth is round."
And they're like, and he's like, "I'm here to endorse their mission."
Because also he thinks that, well, all the creepy guys, like, they heard Frizz say Tally Youngblood was in town. So when the aliens capture them in this, I pictured it as like a giant kiln. Like they were like,
and your guess is as good as ours.
I don't know. So and then they like sprinkled down this, I don't know, like extinguisher powder on them.
Oh, juice. Juice is a popular word used.
Oh yes, juice.
Yeah, thank you.
Extinguisher juice.
and so they assumed that it was Tally. So Andrew Simpson Smith was like, "Oh, I'll go talk to her. This is my friend Youngblood."
Thank God Tally's here, and then it's not Tally.
Yeah, because he's pretty used to his friend falling out of the sky at this point.
He is.
Yeah, and then after his, like, long spiel about how he's not afraid of, like, the little dolls in the trees anymore, and how he's certain that the Earth is round, we learned that the metal is for building a space city because of all the overpopulation.
Wow.
Which we could have learned if they had just listened in the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Tally doesn't trust.
Tally isn't there yet.
Tally isn't there yet because Aya, bless her heart, still concerned about her story.
Yep.
And how is she going to be able to kick this?
Yep.
Yeah, now that Moggle's sentient, she's like, oh no, I can't have a pawn.
And she's worried that her story isn't her own anymore, and that she doesn't get to. She isn't going to get any glory from this.
Yeah.
She's really worried.
God, yeah, she's so worried about her reputation rather than, the world ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, bitch, if there's not a world, you don't have a reputation.
I mean,
Y'all be dead.
You got
Fuck
a point.
this.
You got a point.
And then they start hearing explosions because Tally showed up. That's what happens next.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a
You
big
can
fire.
tell, my notes can tell you how mad I got just reading this book. And great, they hear explosions because Tally's ready for war. And they're like, they have to run and be like, no, Tally, we learned the truth.
The Earth is round!
Andrew, we met your friend Andrew. Tally, the Earth is round, and these missiles, they're making a city. Whoa!
Stop destroying things. And she's like, I don't
Tally's
believe
like,
you.
I don't believe
I'm going to
you.
set off more bombs.
And then Shay goes, they end up starting to believe her really quick, and then Shay goes, yeah, well, I guess fighting fires is almost as fun as starting them. And then they put all the fires out. That's what happens. That's a quote from the book. I didn't make that up. That is a quote on page 376 of the book, everybody.
Do you think when Scott was writing these, he was like, oh yeah, these are gonna be big movie blockbusters. I'm gonna have a lot of souvenirs and t-shirts coming out of this. So he just came up with phrases that he's like, these are zingers.
I don't know, because the first 3 books were good.
Yeah.
They were fun to read.
Yeah.
I couldn't put them down. And to get to, this, which is just a shit show of weird, plot points and, clever quips, it felt so strange, written by a completely different person.
Yeah. I think reading it over a longer period of time would have been better than just putting all of it together in 4 days, because I genuinely felt like this was an out-of-body experience. Honestly, I think I was disassociating for a bit because I had to finish it so fast.
I think I'm glad that I had to read it all in one go, because there's just so little substance in this book. There's a lot of words, sure.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
But a lot of lacking substance.
I mean, I'll be honest, I finished this over a week ago. And I'm heavily relying on my notes because this book is so vapid.
It's so forgotten.
That it did not get the real estate in my brain.
I finished it this morning and was reading my notes being like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. And this book is so in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't remember any of part 3 with Singapore. I was like, okay, the fire's done, and now there's a party, and it's
Speaking of the party, guys, we have to talk about the happily ever after party.
Yep.
Which
Wait,
is
can I stop right there and
yes,
take one more
Absolutely.
segue? So for me, Tally starts blowing things up on page 376.
Yes.
The book ends on page 399. So we have to go all the way from thinking that these people are going to destroy the world with these WMDs to what you just mentioned, the happily ever after party in 23 pages.
And they actually they do it, but they don't do it well.
They don't do it well, and I feel like there's just so much wasted paper in this book.
Yeah.
And then the first 150, 200 pages are cool, and then we wrap it up really, 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 really quickly.
Yeah.
I can't visualize this for the people who are listening, but I will show Ellie. My library spine broke at page 250, and I was like, it's trying to signal to the world this is where it should
This is when the person who is reading this before you got so mad that they just cracked the spine of the hardcover book.
Yeah, they ripped it in half.
threw the book across the room.
I was doing notes and I was like, oh great, it's just that, and then I had a whole other book just barely taped together.
So, yeah, again, and now we're at the Happily Ever After party, which is not the name in the book, but it might as well be.
Yeah.
Because this is so strange for the Scott Westerfeld books that we've just read. Now we have a cute little party where everyone gets to laugh and have fun.
Yep, looking pretty.
It's so fucking weird. Because we learned that Aya's number 3. Yep. Udzer the alien is famous now, and everyone's like, hey, Udzer! And they're getting some new recruits.
Yep.
Yeah, he had to get sunglasses specifically commissioned because his eyes are so far apart, and he's like, I'm a cool guy.
Oh, Udzer.
God, and Aya's like, hey, Udzer, glad you could make it. Get any new recruits? And he's like, yeah, we got a few already, but should be a good night for us.
Like, that's what a groomer, like, predator would say.
Yeah. It's and Tally also has to go to this party to show her support for the new colony in space.
It's important.
It's important. And then, guys, I hope you didn't forget about them, because the Sly Girls are at this party.
Shit!
Yeah, which is why they're like, we came back for this. And also, Lai introduces, doesn't she introduce like a cake that just
she
explodes?
rigged the cake so it'll explode on Nana Love.
At midnight.
And it'll be funny.
And that's
What a
literally, like, that's the classic Sly Girls. Gonna explode some cake on people.
Yeah! And again, classic Sly Girls, we don't know why they came back at all.
No.
Yeah. I don't.
And then Frizz and Aya are suddenly on a quiet balcony together, and Frizz is like, you know what? I think I want to start lying again. I'm gonna get brain surgery and change my brain back.
Yeah, because Tally told him that she thought that he was cowardly for not being able to tell the truth on his own. That he needed to rely on a physical
Honestly,
alteration.
I like that. Call him out.
Yeah. And then, as they're talking and, like, gazing off into the starry sky, they see, like, David and Tally jump over the balcony below them and, like, walk off into a pleasure garden.
Literally, that's it.
That's how the book ends.
Yeah. Scott was like, let me just set this up for them to reproduce the next generation.
I make sure everyone knows they fucking.
Let everyone know that they go and fuck.
But they don't kiss; they just fuck. She hasn't been kissed.
Oh my god, that's such a good interpretation of it.
What is this? Is this Pretty Woman?
Oh my god, Tally and David haven't kissed this whole time, but they absolutely have been fucking this entire 3 years.
Yes.
That's not,
that's
that
a good
would
interpretation
really
of
make
it.
sense.
Wow. Okay, guys, we finished extras. We didn't do a top 5. We can't. We literally can't do a top 5.
No.
There's nothing to top in this book. It's all bottom.
It is all...
Okay,
I is
get
a bottom.
this.
We can
Everybody,
say
go.
it.
We're gonna go in a circle. Let's
Yes.
everybody say...
Frizz is a wizard, I is a bottom.
But to close out this episode, we need to go around in circle and talk about your least favorite bottoms of this book. What were the worst things that happened in this book?
Roses and thorns minus the roses.
Yeah, just the thorns.
Yes, just the thorns.
Just the thorns.
Oh, God.
I'll say it. Least favorite thing: the abandonment of the Sly Girl plotline. It
Yeah.
could have been so much cooler.
Yeah, Eden seems so cool.
Yeah.
Alright, Thorn. Frizz wasn't a wizard. What the hell?
Yeah. Thorn for me was it felt very propaganda-y.
Yeah.
Very, like, go green. Which, like, I agree. Like, we need... Like, climate change is a very real issue. But
Yeah.
this book wasn't supposed to be a metaphor for climate change. This was supposed to be, like, a cool...
girl trying to get famous.
like, it's supposed to be a cool thing. It's not supposed to be... Recycle.
And like Bigger Thorn, Aya is a 2D character that doesn't have any arc or change, and all her main want is to be famous, which makes her automatically the most unrelatable character ever. She's so annoying.
Yeah, we talked about how it felt like it was ghost written, but honestly, I think maybe he just got like really insecure towards the end because all of Uglies was a commentary without specifically saying it was a commentary, and then he was just like being very heavy-handed towards the end.
Yeah,
I
if I ever met him, I'd like love to be like, did you just have like a timeline that they were like, can you write a 4th book in like 3 months? Mm-hmm. And he was just like, sure, here's my first draft.
Yeah.
Or I also pitched that this was actually his first book he ever wrote, and he loved it so much, but nobody would buy it. So then when he finally got a series that took off, he tweaked some things and advertised it as an extension of the Uglies universe.
You know what, Laura? I think you're onto something with that.
I could be.
I agree. I think so too.
It was very much, the writing of it was underdeveloped.
Yeah.
As opposed to the first 3 where you can carry through the story. The story's somewhat captivating.
Yeah.
In some parts stronger than others. But this last one was so...
This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened.
So
that's
juvenile.
how this book is written.
It was very, very immaturely written.
So I could see there being some truth in my fan theory.
I'm definitely curious to research it after this is done.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird to think about.
Yeah.
But, damn. Does anybody else have any other closing thoughts?
I'll say from a nostalgia perspective. So I read this, the original series, when it came out, 2004, I was 7th through 9th, 10th grade when these books came out. So where I was being told I was ugly because I was a preteen. And I was like, yeah, probably. Wouldn't it be the best thing in the world to just be able to get surgery and just be pretty and like not have to worry about it at all, and I could be accepted and popular, and I bought into it. And then reading it as an adult and relating back to how I perceived it then, I really kind of feeling bad for myself for how insecure I was that I was fantasizing about a magical surgery that just would fix all of my problems. And approaching that with the perspective of this is a commentary now, and I can see that for what it is. I appreciated that.
Yeah, it's very cool because like I feel like I felt the same way reading Uglies, Pretties, and Specials, because I remember like going into it, I was like, oh, this was just like a very fun like adventure book. And now even like looking back now, and especially in the age of like social media and Instagram face, I feel like these books minus extras, the actual original 3 books, they actually weirdly hold up.
Yeah.
Even more, they're more relevant now than they were in 2005 when, like, I think Uglies came out then. Yeah,
I'll totally agree with you on that. Meggie, what about you? What are you thinking?
I never read these growing up, so I only got this as like an adult perspective. I read like a lot of Pretty Little Liars and like the murder but sexy books.
Murder but sexy.
So I read these and now I'm like curious to see what they do with it with the Netflix series.
Yeah, did you hear about the Netflix series that's coming out, Ellie?
I had heard whispers. I didn't know it was a real thing.
It's happening.
If they include extras, I will go into a deep depression.
They legally can't include extras.
They would
make
get
an online
canceled.
petition.
We can
It
say
would
it.
get canceled.
I feel like there's a lot of opportunity in social commentary around the economy, around our societal structures, and I got the sense that it was supporting more of like a socialist agenda, which I mean, is fine for the book, and it was taking some digs at capitalism there. Throughout, like, they used all the resources, they just made hundreds of thousands of everything, and then people could just choose the one they want, like making a lot of comments around the Rusties, which is us now. I can't, but is the time and place, Scott.
Yeah, time and place
for sure.
Big Thorn was revealing that they've been in Japan this whole time, halfway through the book.
Like, you go through all this world building and you don't mention anything about Japan, so you're kind of thinking, okay, maybe futuristic society with Japanese influence, like manga, anime, kawaii type like content, but for them to be speaking Japanese is a very clear tether to what we know of as Japan today. So just missed opportunity.
Really missed opportunity. Damn, yeah. We did it though, guys. We did it. We talked about extras in depth for this very special episode of Yeah, We Read It.
Oh my god. This has been a transformative experience for me. I just want to thank you both.
Thank you for
bringing me
joining
along.
us.
Thank you for reading all the books,
thank you for
too.
coming on this journey with us.
welcome.
Good Lord.
There's no one else I would rather have asked to come read this book with us.
Thank you.
And get to suffer through extras.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Thank
guys,
you.
maybe after this, all of our face ranks will go up.
Ooh,
I hope.
No,
I hope so.
not me. I'm a sly girl. I'm going to change my name, so sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna be,
What are you changing it to?
Kelly.
Lely
or Kelly.
Kelly's good too. Nice.
I guess I'll have to change it again because I just said it out loud. I'm going to get really popular out there.
It's
after
okay.
this,
You can
so.
tell us off the
no.
mic.
Yeah, we'll talk offline.
We'll talk offline.
we'll talk
Yeah,
offline.
also send me it in a letter. I'll answer.
Exactly.
But that's going to be it for this episode of Yeah, We Read It. This very special episode of the fourth official, yet somehow unofficial, fourth book in the trilogy of the Uglies, and that is how it is always described as the fourth book in the trilogy. I'm not doing that as a bit. That's how Scott Westerveld describes it as well. Thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed us learning a lot about ourselves, learning a lot about why would this book possibly get written.
You don't know.
Make sure you're following us. Yeah, We Read It. On iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, please like, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, if you will. Also, make sure you're following us on social media at Meggie and Laura. You'll find us anywhere. At Yeah, We Read It on Twitter. Nailed it. At Meggie and Laura present at gmail.com. Send us an email. I've said that before. Nobody's sent us an email yet.
No one sent us an email yet. Ellie, you want to plug anything?
Just send them an email, everybody. They could really use
Thank
it.
you.
So
Oh,
that's
that's
mainly
really
what I
nice.
got.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's why you're a hype up girl.
I'm mainly hype. That's most of who I am.
Mainly hype.
Yeah.
Hype is her middle name, fun fact.
You know me so well.
Hype sometimes, girl.
All right, but that's been it for this episode of Yeah, We Read It. Thank you guys again for listening. Thank you, Ellie, again for joining us. I've had so much fun tonight.
I had so much fun.
This is a blast.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love when everyone has fun. But stay tuned because next week is going to be another very special episode where Meggie and I are going to be doing an in-depth wrap-up of our time with Uglies. We're very excited for it. So thank you guys again. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You were just listening to an Audiomint podcast.